breaking the season, where we realize, oh, we don't have time for this story that we would like to tell, like, and how do we make space for that story when we've got to hit certain beats, and particularly also a lot, I think, even more so than episode order, where our mid-season break falls has a really big ripple effect in either direction about what the story is. And we don't always know that as we start breaking the season. When are we actually going on hiatus there? Because you want to end on a cliffhanger there. So I would say even this season was a case where we didn't know if it was 8 or 9, and when we found out, I don't even know if I'm allowed to reveal when our hiatus is. But when it changed, it was like, we have to rethink some things and adjust to that and start moving some story forward and maybe excise some story and stuff like that. So you just have to adapt to that stuff.
So there was the insinuation that the brothers are going to have to sort of revisit a lot of the monsters and creatures that they fought before, and with the old season, maybe you're going to want to bring some familiar faces back. Can you sort of tease both the monsters and like other old characters that we might see?
Well, I would say that the consequences of the finale last year and sort of some of the old monsters we saw, that's very much at the front of the season. We're dealing with that, but both as a consequence of that and just because it's the last season and because of story reasons, we are bringing back a number of characters, and I have to think for a second about which ones I believe I'm allowed to tease. Well, Rowena will be back. Ketch will be back. And I don't know if this should be embargoed, because I do think that this is a reveal that Eileen will be back for a period, and that's all I can say about that, but that's an exciting development. Yeah, there'll be some familiar faces as well, even in the back half of the season. It'll keep coming, and sometimes in unexpected ways. You don't like not just traditional like cases where it's like, this old hunter that we've seen. It's going to be some interesting twists on how we bring some of our characters back into the fold.
What does it do to Sam and Dean and even Cass to have these things that they've vanquished and gotten rid of in the past come back into their lives?
I mean, it's funny. I would say that at the top of the season, that's certainly like a WTF thing for them to be grappling with. But I think it's almost like that's the fun of the first couple episodes, is that sort of like taking on these familiar foes. But I think emotionally what's really hitting them more broadly actually in that run is the god of it all. And the fact that he's been pulling their strings for so long. Like, what does it mean to be a hero when you don't have complete free will? And sort of them struggling with that is really sort of like the question that they're really grappling with emotionally. And I think there's some interesting differences between how Cass is processing the finale and how Sam and Dean are processing the finale.
For a lot of shows like this, kind of the natural emotional end to the series might be making the ultimate sacrifice for like the greater good. But this is also a show where they've all sacrificed themselves for the greater good about 600 times collectively. How do you kind of find a narrative balance about how to best end the show when we, as an audience, know that maybe death isn't really final in any kind of capacity?
Yeah, I think all I can say about that is that we have some really, I think, interesting and fun ways to play around with that expectation, and I think, and not just in the final stretch, but throughout the season. Like, I think that question will be raised in a number of ways, and Sam and Dean will be struggling with that in a number of ways. And I think we're all very conscious as writers that this is not a the Bells Game of Thrones type, like, just shove everyone's face in the mud kind of downer. It's like, it's a balance of pain and uplift that we have to hit perfectly, that feels fresh and doesn't feel like something we've done before. And I think we have some ideas that we're very excited about that I think will stick that landing for us. So I'm excited.
How present of an antagonist will Chuck/God be? And is there like a discussion of trying to really, like, can they kill him?
Can I say?
Or do they debate trying to kill him?
I think that will be grappled with in time. I think at the outset of the season, it is a little bit of a hands-off situation as far as I think Chuck kind of lit a fire and then walked away. And so it's at the top of the season, it's really our heroes like cleaning up yet another mess, that Chuck left behind. And then we'll get to sort of the question of how do you beat a god, God in the first place, and we'll dive into that then.
And we've had many meta episodes in past seasons? Is that something that we'll get to see in the final season as well?
I hope so. We still have, we're only up to a certain point in the run, but I think that because Chuck has become, in a manner of speaking, the big bad of the show, however that manifests, no spoilers, but I think I do think we're going to get there, but I think what's interesting is that the meta has now become emotional in a way. Like, at least in the early stretch, it's more about emotionally how this is landing on Sam and Dean. And so that sort of meta string pulling thing is less playful at the top of the season, and I think we'll get there in a big and some really interesting and fun ways, some more in the back half.
Bringing a show like this to a conclusion is always difficult when you have such a passionate fan base, and I expect that, especially after everything that happened with Game of Thrones, it's a little scary. How do you navigate, or how are you navigating what the fans want and wanting to tell you?
Well, yeah, I mean, we still, the last half of the season is yet to be written, so there's a lot of stuff that's still up in the air, but I feel like we're in an area that's very exciting, that feels really right for the show, and right for these characters. I've even talked about it on Twitter before, I think that Game of Thrones is about a world, and so it's very hard to close off that story with that huge ensemble cast. And I think really, as long as we focus on Jack and Cass and Sam and Dean, and making sure that their endpoints in the series, like where we leave them, is emotionally resonant and meaningful for them and their arcs, I don't think we're even in the same situation as Game of Thrones was. It wasn't really.